All right, I'm going to talk about where I'm at now when it comes towards politics and philosophy. So, I was a right winger from about 2015 through like 2017 or so. And after realizing just like how far right that went, like how much these people don't like minorities, and being made super clear on that, looking towards the other direction. Because before I got into right wing politics, I probably would have called myself like a humanitarian or somewhere along those lines, or egalitarian or something. And there's so many different words on this now. I think humanist is the closest towards what I would call myself, as well as somebody that cares about animal rights. So I clearly don't care for right-wing YouTube because I've seen a lot of negative things on there, and masks coming off, this expression. And there was a release recently of Paul Joseph Watson saying a bunch of crazy stuff, racist stuff, homophobic stuff, anti-Semitic stuff. And while I haven't watched him in years, it's like a bummer whenever any reactionary content that I've used to watch says something that's trying to outdo the other people with how crazy their rhetoric can be, because it was something I never would have gotten on board with had I known that humanitarianism is not something that's interested in by people like Steven Crowder or any people on the right, it seems like, with reactionary content. Now, there's probably going to be some people that are right-wing that would call themselves humanitarian. I'd imagine Essie Cups would probably fit under that, but she's probably not well-liked by Republicans. And then on the left-hand side, you've got breadtube. I don't like breadtube for a lot of different reasons. I think it's just another counterculture to conservative YouTube or right-wing YouTube. And so it's got all these negative things in there and similar tactics. You still have dog whistling that goes on. And then there's the socialism and communism as well, and then anarchism. And I have no interest in any of that. And while we know that certain people on the right, like Steven Crowder, aren't fans of like black people or gay people as a whole, it might be a little harder to uncover some discrimination or prejudice that people on LeftTube might hold, like Vosh or a few other people, for example. So when it comes towards that, it's more so when you hear Vosh say something about like using the F slur, that you can use this on queer people that are like to your right or whatever. And I think that's pretty dangerous. And Vosh has also advocated violence a lot lately, which I also think is dangerous, which I also was not a fan of, which I'm surprised that YouTube has actually not taken his channel down for this. I'm sure his channel probably had strikes and things before, because I know that YouTube has gone after left-wing content creators like the serfs, so it's not just like right-wingers like Crowder or any other right-wing channels. But Vosh has advocated violence recently. Hassan's also basically advocated violence. He's like cheering on police suicides recently. So I've never liked Hassan. I've never really known much about Vosh until after I had left the right. Then I discovered Vosh, and I didn't like him because I felt like he was pretty crazy out there as well. And it seems like he just is still pretty crazy and out there as well. And don't worry, there's things I don't like about Destiny and other progressive people that are left-wing capitalists too. But I'm more interested in philosophy and caring about human rights than I would be about politics now, because it seems like neither side really cares a whole lot, and plenty of people are into things simply for money. And I would have more respect for people that were just like saying that they're in things for money, versus trying to claim like they care about minorities and stuff. And it's like, okay, you guys are the same. We all care about minorities except for when we don't. That could be a slogan for right-wing YouTube as well as LeftTube. You look at the reactions that Dave Rubin got from conservatives for continuing his family with his husband and adopting another kid. And all the F slurs and saying that he killed and put to death and all this stuff. And then, and if you ever say anything that goes outside the norms on breadtube, as a queer person, you'll know what I mean. If you're queer and you're like pro-life, they trust me, they just will not like you at all. I definitely don't like the pro-life alliance of gays and lesbians. And so where I'm at with politics is I would still, in between like liberal and, or like a sock dem, and so like slightly to the right of that. So still a fan of capitalism, but you do regulation and do this left wing. When it comes towards immigration, I'm not even sure at this point, to be honest. I don't know enough about immigration. I think it's kind of ridiculous, like on one hand, to close borders and then, deport millions of people. I think that would be insane. But on the other hand, having an open border situation could be dangerous as well, because I don't think people really want that either. Because if you have completely open borders and you have like no venting process, and that means you're going to allow people who commit domestic violence or hurt their children or whatever things. So you have to have like some middle ground on that. I just don't know what that is. And when it came towards the wall, I thought that would have happened during Trump's presidency. It clearly didn't. It happened the way that everybody thought things were going to happen. And it's not, the border still is not secure. What a surprise. But it seems like right-wingers just kind of like fearmonger this, because they'll put money into like building the border wall and then they'll run off with it, like what Steve Bannon has done. So I don't know what to do about that. When it comes towards the Electoral College, it seems like everybody, whether they're like, it seems like most liberals as well as socialists want to abolish the Electoral College. I don't think getting rid of the Electoral College would be a good idea. If it were popular, I think that something like this would have probably happened by now. Clearly hasn't. As I've said, I would call myself a humanitarian and somebody who cares about animal rights as well. And I think I do a pretty good job at living my values. And I don't think many people on breadtube do a job at living their values. They don't do a very good job at that. Hassan Piker is a socialist. He's pretty rich, and he's got a nice gated community to keep out all of the people that he doesn't like. And he does, not a whole lot with his money. Vosh doesn't do much with his money either, and has even said that he wouldn't do cooperatives with his YouTube channel, which makes you wonder a little bit more about, worker cooperatives. So yeah, I just care about human rights, and if you care about human rights, then that's where we should be meeting at, in the middle. It shouldn't be socialist versus conservative, or socialists hating on liberals and all. It should be like, you care about human rights, then we're doing pretty good. But I don't know how many socialists, let alone socialist streamers, really give a shit about human rights or minorities. It seems like a lot of this is all just talk. And obviously a lot of YouTube stuff is just like that. And it's kind of sad, because this is our alternative to mainstream media, and it just seems shitty. So I'm more into like philosophy and just caring about people. I've recently heard of this thing that's called the consistent life ethic. Now, I know a lot of people aren't going to like this, and it's only got like 4% of the population, I think, that supports this thing. And so it's opposition towards violent institutions. So this would mean opposition towards abortion, as well as the death penalty, assisted suicide, and then like the military industrial complex, things with war and things related to that. And there are organizations out there that talk about this. Rehumanize International is one I've heard of, and I think they're a pretty good organization. They do a lot of good work. So that's another thing I really hate about left tube as well, is they'll talk about like abortion. All these people are like against abortion, but they're only pro-birth. There are people that are pro-life consistently pro-life, and of course people on breadtube aren't going to ever announce this, because then it will mean that, well, what if somebody in my audience is like all of a sudden they're like, oh, there's different ways to look at this. You mean you can be like pro-life as well as like caring about family time off and all these different things. You can also oppose the death penalty. You can hold all these views for trying to make society better. And it seems like breadtube, is in favor of utopia as their own version, but then when it comes towards anything else, I don't think they've really thought this through the whole way. And I know I'm not really a big fan of utopias, but it seems like the consistent life ethic makes a lot of sense, especially when you account for human rights. And there's other organizations out there too. It's not just Rehumanize International. That's one of them that I think is a really good one. There's like a feminist one that's basically that same concept too, caring about people from birth till death. And then that one specifically is caring more about like women and just like women rights more than anything else. It still includes everything, but it's mostly focused on women's because it is a feminist thing, but being pro-life instead of pro-choice on there. So that's pretty interesting to me. I don't really watch vegan YouTubers other than cooking either, because there's things I just disagree with them on, or I'll find boring, or sometimes I'll just find them being like dishonest about their takes or what other people believe. And that's a problem too. It seems like people don't know how to steelman anymore, which is a shame, because I think I could steelman why people are not vegan pretty well. I mean, I was not vegan most of my life, so there's that. I think I could steelman pro-choice arguments pretty well. I've known a lot of pro-choice people. I've heard a lot of pro-choice arguments, just like I've heard pro-life arguments. So I think I could do pretty decent jobs at steelmanning my opposition and getting to understand people. But it doesn't seem like breadtube has any interest in really bringing together a whole lot of people. It just wants, I don't know, it just wants to still be like this anti thing, just like with the anti-SJWs on the right, or just antis, and now you have a left-wing version. And I know this is a little bit longer than have been doing videos for a while, and I was hoping I could make this shorter, but I don't know how to make this smaller than it is. So I'm gonna call it good, and I'll make more videos whenever I feel like it, I guess.